Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about, which is really a continuing sort of dialogue about the numerous ways that the capitalist corporate sort of world is being put under assault. Now there's on one side we've got, it's a bit of a three-cornered gig here. On one side we've got the forced black-brown immigration, the gender and race quotas, putting totally unqualified people into all sorts of jobs, now into middle management, and even upper middle management jobs now, people coming from third world countries with minimal English and any commercial or business experience they have, which is itself minimal, they've got in some third world shithole where the average income is like 1/25 of what it is in the West. So, and that's hardly relevant or pertinent to experience. But anyway, they're being brought into the West and being given jobs. On the other side, we've got the number of businesses now who are getting by on either A, cozy government contracts, or B, monopolies, oligopolies, and C, even cartel pricing, not to mention various tax arbitrage scams that are being used, using offshore management fees and charges to offset against tax in the areas where the corporate tax is high, so or high as the corporations would see it. So so that's the sort of the structure of or the pressure, if you like, that capitalism is under just in that corporate sector. But there's another factor as well, and let me talk a little bit about that. What used to happen was, and this was a very big issue when the information technology, the computer boom was on in the 70s and 80s. It was quite a big deal there, where you'd have people would develop something, classic Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak would develop things in their garage, a product, a computer, whatever. Could be computer software, develop in their garage or some little office cubby hole in a light industrial estate and that sort of thing. And then they would get those companies moving. They would start hiring people. Some of those companies were a big success, and some of them were so successful they even managed to succeed out of their own revenues. Such was the appeal of the technology they had and the willingness of folks in those days to give them a go. Now times have changed a bit there, but those startup companies, of which there are many, Microsoft was a startup company one time. Those startup companies, they tend not to exist anymore. Certainly not to the extent that they once did. Even the Googles and the Facebooks, they're really just a product of the big finance end of town, and they're using those as vehicles to milk them for all sorts of profits. So, but what typically is happening today is somebody, some sharp guy develops nearly always straight white males, by the way. Some sharp guy develops a hot product, and the big financial companies like the BlackRocks, that sort of thing, they have smaller subsidiaries that are investment capital firms in effect, and they're smaller and they're in all sorts of different industries looking around for new product opportunities. And give them their due, they find these opportunities, and what they do is if they think it's going to be a success, they set up, if you like, a round robin. So what they'll do is they'll go to the developer of the product, which would turn into probably a very successful company if it was allowed to run its course. And they'll say to the guy, look, you can have $5 million right now, $5 million cash in the hand. We own your product. Now, for a guy who sweated blood for a long time in making a product, $5 million is life changing. And he goes, oh, yeah, okay, all right then. Well, not all of them, but most of them do. And then that product is taken over by the venture capital firm, which again is a subsidiary of the big end of the big finance firms, and then they already have a round robin gig going. So they're going to fatten that product up a little bit, get it, the way they'll float it and make a lot of money out of the IPO and the initial share offering, that sort of thing. then they'll sell it to, or it'll get taken over by a big firm who's a player in that same product space. But that's already been prearranged. Now, it's a product that requires regulatory approval from the government, but there's again a round robin of people from big finance to the big multinationals into the regulatory bodies, and they just go around these people in a loop. And so they can pretty much set up in advance that this product will get regulatory approval. So they can already say, all right, we'll take it up for $5 million. It's going to be approved. We'll do an IPO, then we'll sell it, or it'll be taken over by these other guys, and we'll collect big management fees every time a transaction takes place. So they make a shitload of money doing this. But what happens is that the world loses a innovative product, and it means that the bigger multinational firms, they're not innovating, or certainly nowhere near to the extent they once might have. Instead, they're just sitting around waiting for these venture capital firms to pick up these smaller, these product developer products, if you like, and then just back them straight into an already existing infrastructure. So what this means, that product, because it then goes into, it was developed by a smart guy, that then ends up in just another product in the lineup, in the catalog of a big multinational firm. They're not hiring any extra people, or maybe one or two or something. They're not hiring extra people. It's a product that's fitting into the already existing sales and organizational infrastructure of that big firm, which gives them better economies of scale and things like that. But the people are already there. Instead, that product should be allowed to run its course, become a business. People are hired, they're close to the product, they pick up and develop a lot of expertise, technical expertise, and then they go off and develop other products, and there's a virtuous circle of commerce that takes place. But all this is being lost because of this thing of these venture capital firms, which again are owned by the big end of town, that are getting in there and just taking these products, if you like, out of circulation. It'll never become a business. No people will be employed, or one or two might be employed in with that product. So it's lost to the business sector, and it makes the big firms less efficient. They don't give a shit about product development now, or R&D or anything like that. It also means that commerce, that business, that product development that's right at the sharp end, right at the coal face of commerce, product development, getting a product out there, launching a product, all that's lost as well, and the expertise that goes with it is also lost. But on top of that, though, the sort of people that are being appointed to boards of directors and corporate boards increasingly are just socialites. Now, as big finance dominates more and more of the business sector, as well as controlling governments and controlling the media and so on, they're able to dispense favors and patronage and gifts to their friends, and their rich socialite friends are those that are the recipients of these gifts of patronage. So they're being appointed to corporate boards, and these are people who've never worked in their lives. They've never had a job. They've never had to produce anything or create anything. They've never had to be accountable for their actions, make decisions, and so on. The most they've ever done is flipping real estate, and they think they're hot shit business people from that. And even there, the big financial end of town is pointing them at opportunities, then bringing rich Chinese buyers in to pay over market price for real estate, and then these socialites run around thinking they're high-powered business people because they flipped a couple of waterfront properties for big profit. But anyway, these are the sort of people that are being appointed to boards. Now, one of these boards for a new product was they wanted to hire a CEO, and I've made mention of this in the past, but I'll sort of recast this story to reflect the point I'm trying to make here. Is they'd heard that they'd asked, we need some help here. We need to hire a CEO, but we're not really confident what we're doing, and we need a bit of guidance. And I knew somebody who knew someone, and I ended up sort of coming along to help and meeting the board of directors. They're more people, sort of, I don't know, 50s, 60s, that sort of thing. Very pleasant, very nice people. exquisite manners. They have very charming in their way, but they've never had to work in their lives. They've inherited money, and they've got superb connections around town, particularly at the big end of town with the financial firms. So they're just endless recipients of gifts. When a big brand name company wants to do a big bash, a big soiree of some sort, these are the people that are getting, they're on the A list for the party invites. And anyway, they were all sitting around the table, and so the thing is, you need to help us, sort of point us in the right direction for hiring a CEO, and they didn't want to go down the path of using recruiters. They wanted to sort of keep it, if you like, inside or in house. So don't know why, but anyway, so I'm sitting around the table with them, and it's pretty clear that it's like dealing with children or people who've got no idea. Not that they know a little bit or something, they've got no idea. And some of them are already on a number of corporate boards, but again, they're just socialites. They're just there to lend their name. They're almost a brand in their own right amongst rich people. And so they're there. And as we're talking about the various issues, I'm having to explain basic entry-level 101 type stuff that someone for a year or two in business would know. And so it comes across to me, these guys have got no idea. And it's a little embarrassing. How did you get these jobs? But they're getting the jobs because of their connections, because they've got the right social connections. Again, nice people, pleasant and charming and so on, just no business experience. Now, there are plenty of people out there that not only have vastly more business experience and therefore could do a better job, but also could use that experience, then go on and add more value to the business sector generally. These people aren't interested in adding value. They're not interested in learning anything. They're just interested in swanning around with prestigious titles and so on. They don't actually care. They don't want to learn. They don't want to look stupid and make stupid, dumb mistakes. And their main tactic for avoiding making mistakes is not do anything. Don't make a decision, then you can't make a mistake. Is pretty much their way of going about things. Nonetheless, they want to hire a CEO. Now, they were fairly candid with me. They kind of admitted that they didn't really know, and so they needed to hire a CEO who did know, who could patiently explain to them why something was happening and why he was doing this or that and so on. So they were approaching it from a very linear and a very childish, very beginner, very amateurish. That's how I describe it. And I'm looking, thinking, gee whiz, how you guys, you've been on corporate boards for 20 years and you don't even know the most basic 101 stuff. But you can't say that, so you've got to keep quiet and keep on smiling. So they said, okay, we've identified 11 areas of expertise that we think the guy should have. So in their simple-minded, sort of childish way, they then said, well, therefore the guy, the candidate, whoever they hire, should have qualifications and all of these and experience. Now, they wanted sort of 3 to 5 years experience in each category, plus a degree, and some they even wanted masters and PhDs, which was quite astonishing. So I said, well, look, even if this guy did concurrent degrees, that's 2 degrees at a time, did concurrent degrees, he still had to be in university for about 30 years before completing those degrees. And this took a bit of explaining, because you could see the cogs sort of turning their head. Well, what do you mean 30? How do you work that out? And so, all right, well, a degree is 3 years. You want so many degrees. You want a master's, which is another year. Then you want a PhD, which is in this instance another 3 years, and so on. So that even if they did 2, but if they did it all sort of 1 degree after another, they'd have to be at university for 60 years. I mean, this is not rocket science here. This is pretty obvious. If you've got that many degrees and 3 years per degree, then that's how long it's going to take. And you go, oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. So are you saying that might be a bit of a big ask? That's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, do I need to spell it out for you? So this was the level, this was the amateurish level of conversation that they were engaging in. I mean, if the reverse was the case, and someone had come to me and said, "What, who should we put on the board of directors?" Not one of those people would have got past me. Within 5 minutes, they'd have been shown the door. Nice people though they were, they had no business expertise, nothing that was relevant to running a business or to the technology around the particular product that the business was going to be built around. So then we got to the area of experience, and so again I had to explain. Well, look, you can't really expect 3 to 5 years per category. Again, the person's going to have to be 200 years old to meet all the criteria that you've got listed here. I'm guessing that they probably wouldn't be very, very energetic if they were 200 years old. And so again, there was a lot of looking at each other and looking back at me, that sort of thing. And so I managed to talk them out of it, saying, well, look, that amount of experience isn't necessary. And again, somebody would be dead from old age before they'd achieved it, and those sort of qualifications aren't necessary. And so they sort of, again, the amateurish and the childish, and well, how do we know the person could do the job if they don't have all these things? Because we don't know if they know it. So the only way we can be sure that they know it is if they have A, the qualifications, and B, as in a college degree, and B, the experience at a brand name firm. So all right, well, look, if they're going to be with a big multinational firm, they've got a vast infrastructure to support them. Now, you're wanting someone to come into a small startup company, and they're going to have to do a lot of things themselves. They won't have that vast infrastructure. So if you take someone out of a vast infrastructure situation, such as a big multinational, they're not going to have the on-the-ground nuts and bolts expertise that be needed for this. And again, I had to explain it slowly and painfully so that they would get it. But they were terrified. Not terrified. They didn't want to run the risk of the embarrassment of saying, well, we don't know. If we also hire someone who doesn't know, then no one's going to know, and that's probably not a good thing, which is a reasonable enough assessment on that basis. So then I had to explain to them about how if a CEO comes in, they may hire people who have certain expertise, and then the CEO would manage those people. And they saw that as a loss of control, the board. They said, no, we want to control the people who know. And so that was a conversation in itself. But when you're dealing with amateurs, you have to go around in painful, torturous circles, as I did there. And so I gave them my recommendations, and was pretty glad to sort of get out of there. In the sense, it's such hard work dealing with these people. But the issue, or the wider issue, is that this is not a one-off case or anything. These sort of people are everywhere now in the executive suite, and this is just another way that capitalism and the business sector and the commercial sector is under assault. And these are people that'll pay no consequence. Like if that product, which by the way did go nowhere with them, if that product falls over and goes nowhere, it's not going to affect them. They're still living in their waterfront mansions. They're still driving their $500,000 motor cars. They're still in their $3 million yacht, and so they've still got all those things there. Nothing affects them, and they will continue to cruise into other sort of cozy numbers and prestigious roles. Some of these boards of director roles, by the way, don't pay a lot. It's more the prestige, but they may be have 10 of them, and so that's still an income of $500,000 a year, and all sorts of overseas trips and secretaries paid for, and so on and so forth. So, but this is, I believe, given that situation, this is causing, I believe, a huge drag on the business sector, and it's being orchestrated and manipulated by big finance, and they don't care about the collateral damage of it all. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.